hell of an intro. I tell you what you info, but I never really been the type of dude to give no info. But if you see your ends low and you trying to get a benzo, I'll give your ass some game that'll change the way that you think, bro. Super skilled with the pencil, super ill in my mental. I reminisce on life, I'm nice, here's my memento. Get it through your tempo, I get on any tempo and give it all I got. I'm hot, I got like 10 flows, trying to live on the 10th floor, across from residentials that I own. My mind stayed grown, I used to think clothes, I really used to think hoes and what I do to get those, and then I switched it up.
What's up, everyone? It's Ronnie Polonies and
Francis Fan.
And welcome to the realest show on the planet of Earth, where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. You're going to hear it all. So if you're looking for some sort of motivation, inspiration, guidance, you're in the right place. I promise. You know, we make it our mission to make sure we give you a place where you can consistently walk and grow. There it is.
You got it.
There it is.
Yeah, it took half an hour.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Cut it out, man.
Well, we're here. We're here. I don't know, man. How you feeling about this episode today?
I feel pretty good. You know, when you sent it, and I was looking at it, and I was like, oh man, making me go back in memory lane. And you know, sometimes going back into memory lane isn't always the best, because sometimes you bring back some dark things, and you can bring back some light into some situations that sometimes you don't really tend to want to remember. So that's kind of like, you know, what I kind of got from it. And I was just like, well, you know, you got to talk about it because it's a story. It's somebody needs to hear it, you know. So that's really what I got from it. What about yourself? Like, what made you even want to even talk about this? Or at least let's discuss it. You can go ahead.
I mean, I'm going to let them know first what we're talking about. So today we're going to be talking about second chances. Do you ever feel as though, you know, was there ever a time where you feel as though life gave you a second chance? And how did you take that opportunity? So for me, it really came down to this past week that I just had.
Oh, wow.
Because I found myself in an environment full of people who, you know, got that second chance to life, you know. We were put in situation where we had to talk about some of our, you know, our own personal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that some of the trauma, whether it's childhood trauma or any issues that you may have had, a lot of people have been through it. So you're not really the only one.
Yeah.
So being able to sit in a position where I'm like, oh, you too? Yeah, you too? You went through that? And it's like, we pulled ourselves out of there.
Yeah.
We pulled ourselves out of there, and here we are.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, I feel like we all go through a phase in life that kind of wake you up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wake you up.
I hope it does.
Changes your entire perspective on life, right? To where you have to make certain changes for yourself and for the people around you.
I mean, that's a lot then. That's a lot of, like, experiences then. Some of them happen for the better, of course. But some happens actually for the worse. And I mean, if you're looking at it from an aspect of, you know, it actually changes your life, I think that's every day, like something changes somebody's life.
Yeah, but to where you have to make drastic change.
Okay. No, I see what you're saying now.
Yeah. I'm talking to, you know, that second chance came to you to like, yo.
If it wasn't.
Yeah.
If
I'm going to give you an
that.
example.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that I went through this past week I can't disclose because I signed a non-disclosure.
They made you sign a non-disclosure.
Yes.
Hey, man.
These are people's personal life issues.
Okay. Well, you don't have to say their name.
But I'm going to give you an example. This conversation we had at dinner, right? From a guy who I think will be a good friend in the long run.
Yeah.
But his situation was they were both in a car. He was in the passenger side. They got robbed. The driver got gunned down. But
in front of him?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so they got robbed from both sides. So let's say, you know, I put a gun to your head, and then there's somebody else on the other side put a gun. But the one that was on the driver's side, I guess he had a trigger finger. He pulled the trigger. But on the other side, he didn't pull the trigger. So one get to live to tell the story. That's a second chance in itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he probably wouldn't.
If he had a trigger finger too, he probably wouldn't,
Right.
be here today.
So that's the kind of situation I'm talking about, but not necessarily in the sense of, somebody has a gun to your life. It could be, you may have made a major mistake in life and you're like, oh, I get you,
I got one right now. Now that you bring it like that.
But you get what I'm saying, right? Yeah. So
this one's going to be a good one because, everyone's going to be really shocked to hear this one. I'll tell you that because, woo, you're going to hear a little bit about how the old Ronnie was.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I think I have an idea of where this is going.
Nah, I don't think so. I mean, I have, this is a story that literally happened behind closed doors that not many people know. And it's one of those things that truly indeed shifted my mindset, my life, everything on a larger scale.
And you're ready to put that on the air for?
Yeah, it wasn't nothing bad. It's just more of like, something that I had to see in order for me to wake up. That's it. It's nothing that it's a dark secret, but it's just one of those experiences in those moments that not many people know. It's because it happened behind closed doors. Again, it was traumatic to others. It wasn't even traumatic to me. It was traumatic to others, and because I saw what impact it did to others, that's what made me realize, hey, bro, you gotta switch something up here. You can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and
we'll get into it. We'll get into it.
Yeah. So that's kind of where just hearing people's story and also sharing my own, and I realized, you know what? I think it's important to talk about it because if you do in fact are given a second chance at something, how are you handling that? How are you moving forward with it?
Right? Nah, that's my second chance.
Because a lot of people don't get a second chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a few of them that actually, but this one I'm thinking of right now, that I think this is the one that literally shifted everything for me.
All right, let's go.
Let's do it, man.
Let's bring it on.
I do want to talk about the one that didn't, though, as much as the one I want to talk about first. I got to leave you guys on a cliffhanger. You know how I do. But no,
I think that's the word. That's your favorite word. Cliffhanger is definitely your favorite word.
I have to. You got to stay to the end to hear the good stories, That's what they do in every movie, right? So if it's okay for them, why is it not okay for me? Huh?
Stay hydrated, people. Stay hydrated.
But anyways, this was one I was thinking of when you initially brought the question to me. I was like, hey, this is what we're going to talk about. I was like, all right, cool. First thing that came to mind was actually when I was really young, probably at the age of maybe 7. At this point, I've moved from Norwalk to Stratford, and this is of course when I was back in Connecticut. This is when my brother and I, we used to travel from Norwalk to Stratford to go to school, of course, because my mother was still working and so on and so forth, whatever. But there was one time I was the type of kid where I would never sit down in the seat properly. Never. I was always doing something in the back. So at this point in time, we're on the highway, and so my knees are pretty much on the chair and I'm looking out the back window. And I kid you not, I remember this thing vividly because this right here would have changed all 3 of our lives. Mind you, it's my brother, it's my mom, and I all in the car. All I saw was to my right. I was like, Mommy, why is that truck getting closer to us? She didn't realize the truck was merging into our lane. And we're in the first lane. So thankfully we weren't in the middle. We weren't literally in a way where the truck was it was a truck too. It's 18-wheeler. The boy would have clipped us easily. Small little blue car. I wish I remember the type of car it was. But the truck would have clipped us. It got so close to the car, it chipped the paint. So it was literally seconds, maybe milliseconds away from literally taking us right off the cliff, and we would have tumbled down. I would have been done. I didn't have my seatbelt on. I'm looking out the back window. My knees is on the chair, so I did everything I shouldn't have been doing. I would have been done. I would have been tumbling, head bouncing, everything. What? Over. So that is one of those moments where I always remember just not every day, but just sometimes when we're thinking about going back memory lane. These are one of those things that I'm like, wow. Yeah. Like, not only did I was able to alert my mother, but thankfully I was alert enough I'm 6-7 years old, alert enough to say, why is that truck getting closer to me? Right. And my mom realized that, and just goes right into the emergency lane. And thankfully we only got the chip paint off the car. Like, I really wish I had a picture of that, because that right there was a memory. And I'm not scared of 18-wheelers now, but it's one of those things I'm really cognizant of when I'm driving on the highway now. And I remember that moment. It's just nothing I'm scared of, but it's one of those where it's like when I am driving on the highway now and I need to pass a truck, I give the truck enough space to do your thing. If you don't want to do your thing, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And I kind of just go. But that was one of the very first things that came to mind. But I wouldn't say that changed anything.
Yeah, I was just about to say that because I feel like if it affected you tremendously, you probably will have like a fear of driving or a fear of being in a car. But this guy just be speeding like crazy.
Yo. Don't telling people what I'm doing. Like, come on now.
It's like I'm like, there's no correlation between that incident and your NASCAR driving habits.
My NASCAR driving habits. You want to talk about NASCAR driving habits? Hey, do you want to talk about it? Because we have some memories we could talk about in college. I was the only one in the car telling you to chill out. Remember that?
I'm good.
You remember that moment?
If we want to talk about conflict, that was one conflict that I think that was the very first conflict.
I think so.
Had.
I'm the only one.
Goodness. That was just something.
Hey, I'm the type of person where I'll let it be known despite who's around me, because again, it's not just me, it's everybody. And some people know how to voice themselves, some people don't. And I was really speaking for myself, but I mean, for the people that was in that car that day too, I hope I was speaking for you too.
Yeah. I mean, we could tell them. You won't tell them a glimpse of that story?
I mean, is it?
We're coming back from a football game. This is
just do not incriminate us.
No. No. We're coming back from a football game. This is on a one-way. Yeah. So it's one-way street.
Well, it's two-way. It's two-way.
Two ways, but one
two-way
lane.
traffic. Yeah, one lane. Yeah.
One lane. Stubborn, impatient, or I don't know. I thought I was cool. I
don't know what the heck you were thinking.
I don't know what got into me.
What kind of car was it?
What I was driving?
Yeah. It wasn't the Infinity. It was the BM, right?
Yeah, it was the BM.
Yeah.
The BM was pushing. Yeah, it was the power.
He thought he was a cool guy.
Yeah, it was the power.
He thought he was a cool guy.
Yeah. Anyway, I drifted off the lane and passed 4 cars in front of me. And then there was one car that was like literally super close to us. Like if I did not move back right.
Yeah, everybody would have been clipped.
Yeah,
everybody would have been clipped. So yeah, that's the story.
You always have something with cars. That's the second one.
Yeah. I mean, you're just reckless at that point.
I was super reckless and never did it after. But it was eye opening, and I kind of like. I didn't like it at first, that we got into a conflict, but I appreciate the fact that you called me out on it.
Yeah, I mean,
because it's, it shows that you care not only about yourself, but also everybody that was in the vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Because it's how I looked at it is, hey, if you're going to do something of that nature, hey, go do it. Do it by yourself. Yeah. But also be more rational when you're driving and you want to do something that doesn't make sense at the moment. Make it rational. Make it sense. Right. I guess. I mean, it would make sense if it was 1 car, 2 cars, but 4. Yeah. 4. I was like, bro, now you're pushing it. Like at that point, you're giving too much room for error, and that's kind of how I saw it. It's like, dog, no. Like. I get it. You understand you got this powerful car. This thing gonna be zipping, but you don't know what somebody else's action is gonna be, and that
was the thing. You just don't know how the other cars are gonna react.
And at that point in time, that's why I was like, "Yo, you can't. No, if you're gonna do that, go do it by yourself. Right. Don't do it when you have literally a car full of people, and people literally trying to calm me. No. Don't try to calm me down. This is real life." Shout outs to him for trying to calm me down, but nah, it wasn't that. I'm not gonna say his name.
I can't remember.
He was my roommate in Garrigus.
Oh yeah. Got it.
But it was just, I don't think that was a moment for anybody to really calm down. It was for everybody to understand the scope of everything what's going on. Like understand, like, hey, not only who is behind the wheel when you're in a car. Understand, do you trust that person enough to actually get you to your destination safe? And obviously everybody got in that car to do that. And I felt like at that moment in time, you put us all at risk.
Right.
And it was a very, in my head, it was selfish. It was like, bro,
it was.
it
That was 6 years ago, 5 years ago now.
I don't know. But I will say, the football game was lit. Everything up until that point in time, everything was great up until that moment.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a conflict that we went through for those of
one of few that you'll hear about.
Yeah.
You ain't real friends if you ain't been through it together.
Yeah.
Through the mud, through the arguments, and learn how to get over it.
That's it.
And learn how to talk through it.
That's it.
Because
what that does is just it gets you to become a better person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we're in a world where you want to surround yourself with a better person, and you gotta address things like that.
Yeah.
So
even if
better people, I guess.
And kind of what we talked about our last episode, talking about conflict, right?
Yeah.
It's literally that was how do I deal with it? I tell you what it is. If you don't like it, hey, get. It's not gonna bother me. But this is who I am. I'm gonna tell you exactly what it is. And as a person, you're either gonna appreciate that, or you're gonna be like, yeah, I can't deal with that. That's just not who I am. That's not what I want to be around. So you're an individual that clearly you can deal with it because, we're still rocking, right?
Facts. I think we should do one like that, like an episode on criticism. How do you take criticism and feedback?
That's fair.
But anyway, back to our topic for today.
Yeah.
You talked about the first one, the car situation.
Yeah, the car one.
Yeah. So what
this one? Yeah, this one was. So I was a troublemaker growing up. Troublemaker. I did everything I shouldn't have done. I was the kid where you had probably very little control over. I did what I want, how I wanted. I found ways to do things I wasn't supposed to do I knew how to get around a lot. And that just, I guess, I just knew the way around my household and what buttons to push and what not to push and when to push. I think that right there I've identified at a really early age. And I kept that behavior up until I would say, middle school, I would say.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another. I would never forget this. There was a knock on my door, and everybody's like, no one supposed to have anybody at the house at this point. It's like, who is that? And then, sure enough, who you think it is? This is the police. I'm like, why are you at my house right now? And they came looking for me. I'm like, okay, in my head, I'm like, what did I do? Like, I was mind blown right now because I didn't know what was going on. Clearly, they've been doing some dirty work on me for quite some time for them to come knock at my door randomly.
What did you do? Well,
I'm not going to criminate myself. That's an offline conversation.
I know. Yeah.
But, so they came knocking my door. They asked me a few questions, and, one thing led to another. Long story short, it ended up, I ended up in a room with my mother, my cousin, and myself, 2 other people. Not going to disclose names in the scenario, but pretty much by the end of the conversation, my mother was in tears. Literally tears. And I was like, wow, I've never actually seen my mother cry before. And it was hurt of the scenario that happened. Almost seeing her boy go kind of thing,
Yeah.
And not knowing what to do. It's like, man, who did I create in front of me? You know, it was so many, they were praying. It was... It was to the point where it was like, I wouldn't say bad, but it was bad enough to, it could have drastically changed my life for the better or the worse. And all it took was literally one decision. And obviously, I came out on the better side, not having to go through it. But I think just that moment in itself led me to kind of see things. And it's like, I got to switch things up. And ever since then, the trajectory of where I've gone and who I am today is nothing compared to that guy back then. So I would say just that moment in itself of disappointment, of course, making any parent, anyone that disappoints their parent, no one wants to hear, oh, you disappointed me. But that's kind of what I heard and saw without her saying it. But yeah, that right there switched everything for me, because then I started to get out of my environment, which was actually causing me to be in certain environments where it was hurting. It was doing more hurt than than actually helping.
So at that time, did you already know like how the power of like not being in an environment or anything like that, or you're just trying something new?
I'm having fun, man. I'm young. I'm having fun. I'm doing my thing. No one, like, again, I was a wild goose.
Bro.
I was that one troubled kid in my household, and all my siblings can tell you that. Like, no one could really tell Ronnie what to do. I mean, you could, but you knew Ronnie was not going to listen at that moment. You knew, okay, what you're saying to Ronnie right now is going to go in one ear and out the other immediately. Because, again, I knew, it's habits. I picked up really quickly how my parents parent. Okay, yeah, I get in trouble. I get punishment for a week or two, a month. A month later, I'm back to action. I'm okay with waiting. I'm okay with being a little bit for my actions. It's something that I wanted to do, so I knew consequences come for what you want to do, and maybe if it's good or bad. But it was one of those things where I understood the parenting habit aspect of it. I knew who was going to punish me. I know how the punishment was going to go. I know maybe how long it was going to go for. And of course, there's asterisks to everything. There's sometimes where you can't continue to punish me, like, because we have to do something. Or I need my phone back because we have to do something. It just all worked out sometimes really perfectly. But I just learned to navigate through everything. And I think that right there helped me just be able to navigate through life at the same time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What is the one key element that, obviously I know you talked about not disappointing, your parents, seeing your mom cry and praying and all that.
Yeah.
What would you say is one key element that allowed you to overcome that situation, that like today, if for example, if we have somebody who is battling something similar, right, to where they feel as though they're disappointing someone. It could be a partner, it could be parents, it could be your accountability partner. What would you say is one thing that helped you at that point? Because you never had that conversation with your mom where you're like, how did that impact you, right? You never had that conversation. You just assumed that you were letting her down.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, from an African family, when they start going into prayer, you messed up big. So I can relate to that. And we actually had quite a similar childhood because I was a troubled kid myself. But I just want to know, like, what would you say is one thing that kind of allowed you to transition and be like, okay, I see what I did. I messed up here. I got to change my ways. And
I would say, I think it's, again, my siblings. I grew up around other individuals who weren't troubles. Like, they weren't troublemakers.
Yeah.
They came in, they did this stuff, and I have an older brother, so literally I had some sort of guidance. I had someone to look at to see why am I doing this and you're not, and I'm dealing with this and you're not. So yeah, I had that kind of to lead and guide me. So it wasn't, again, like you said, I didn't have that conversation, but I was able to see, a different experience that my brother was having, and that enabled me to see, like, all right, something has to give here. Like, there's no way. And I mean, to see if you're consistently making your parents cry or your mother cry, and then it takes a lot for at least some women. It takes a lot for them to cry. My mother's one of them. I've never seen my mother cry up until that point. So I saw that and I was like, yeah, I messed up. Because I've never seen that before. Yeah. And that's when I knew, okay, something has to change. I got to do something. I don't know what it's going to be, but it was something that I got to do for myself and for everybody else, because you can't continuously to hurt your people. Like, that don't make no sense to me, you know? And I think it wasn't anything I would say particularly that I could tell somebody to do, but it's just the scenario. And I mean, how I felt at that moment, it wasn't a good feeling. And I think the feeling of it wasn't good for me. And also having a role model and having a brother that I could look to see, you're not doing this. So why am I doing this? And it was, of course, my environment. My environment was completely different than my brother's. I created my own environment, and my environment was not a good one, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I can relate to that. when I look back now at most of, I guess, the environment of the people that I surrounded myself growing up, a lot of times that I was in trouble, it's because I was in with the right people around me.
It's always like that.
And it's crazy because my mom always would tell me, like, you know, you want to surround yourself with the good people. But the thing is, as a child, what your parent asks you to do, you'll do the complete opposite. At least that's what I did. Right? You'll tell me to not do this, I am going to do it. It's just crazy to see how you went through the same situation with the environment affecting your decision.
Yeah.
And the way you handle yourself and what I did as well.
I'm curious though, like, what was your time where you felt as if life handed you
a second chance? Life handing me a second chance. I feel like I've gotten more than just a second chance. I feel like sometimes I feel like I don't deserve to be here.
Bro, what?
Yeah. It's not in a bad way. Not in a bad way.
Please clarify that.
Not in a bad way. So, you know how I'm sure you have people around you who, you know, deserve to be in a good position, right? Okay. They deserve to do well in life based on the decision the way they carry themselves. Yeah. Whatever it could be. Now, when I look back at the things that I did growing up, it's a reminder to me that there are other people that, you know, didn't do nearly half the things that I did. Right. And yet they don't have, you know, access to the opportunities that I still have to this day. That's why I say, like, there's a lot of people, you know, sometimes I feel like I don't deserve to be here because there are other people that could be here, right? But I'm here for a reason, and I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna use it to its full potential. But the number one thing that came up to me is really this year and the way things turned out. As you know, and some of our audience know, I wasn't born in this country, and being born.
Where were you born again?
China.
I tried.
Yeah. So being born, that will always be my answer. Being born in a different country, and also I never really spent time under one roof with my mom, with my mom. And this year, being able to see her again, being in the same state after what? This is since I came to the U.S. in 2009, right?
Almost a decade.
Well, it's been more than a decade, 13 years. So being able to see her again and be in the same state, you know, she just bought a house and things like that. It's to me, it's a blessing, and it's a reminder that, I mean, what more can you ask for, right? There's so much that could have happened in 13 years, right? I could have been 6 feet under. She could have been 6 feet under. You know, I could have been somewhere in a different country. You know, she probably couldn't be, you know, even been in America. So to me, the fact that I'm here with my parents in the same states, a lot of people don't have that privilege. I see it as a second chance, and I see it as a second chance, and because I never had really that solid relationship with my mom, right? So it's a second chance for me to build that relationship and grow. That to me is really what's important.
Yeah, no, that's definitely next level, because I don't know many people that can live without their parents, you know. And you went 13 years doing it, of course, with other help, but parents, your mother, your father, that those are bloodlines, you know?
But even when I was back home, I didn't really live with my mom. I lived with my aunt. So my mom, we really lived together for 2 years. That's it. My entire life, 2 years. 2 years together. So it's like I probably know more about you than I know about my mom.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh.
You get what I'm saying? Because we did 4 years of college together.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where I'm like, I'm thankful for the second chance to, you know, be able to rekindle that relationship. together.
Mm-hmm. How do you plan on using that I guess how do you plan on using that experience to be able to rekindle back that relationship with your mother moving forward? Like,
I think just being there, listening, and just being a sponge, and listening to her, talking to her, and seeing, how my character today has been affected by it.
mm-hmm.
And those are some of the work that I've already been doing, because there are times where I was sitting the other day, I'm like, yo, now I understand where my anger come from, right? Because I used to have trouble being upset all the time. I used to get beat every time as a child, right? I also didn't like to what do you call it? I didn't like to be around people, right? So I always would want to have my own environment. That all comes part of, my experience as a child. So being able to address those things, just talk to my mom and clear the air, I think it's important to do that.
Yeah. Do you plan on using the same, I guess not the same tactics, but ideally the same to kind of just build other relationships that you come across with people, or the relationships that you already have?
Well, that's another thing. For a long time, I did not understand the power of relationships. Right. So, but now that I get it, right, and I'm applying it over time, of course I'm going to do it with others, not just with my parents. Yeah, because it's important to have a support system.
Yeah.
It's important to have a support system. I'm going to say it again. It's important to have a support system. So make sure you have a support system around you. And not just any. People that you can trust, people that will call you out when you mess up. Not just clap for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Drop the egos. I think that's what it ultimately comes down to, We all have a job, a journey, a mission, values, principles. Some of them may not align, and that's okay. But you got to respect the person that it's coming from and understand. And then from there, just truly indeed drop your ego. Let what you feel, and I think this is a really, really big conversation that we can have. And I'm not going to go ahead and try to take it even further, but dropping the ego is important just because that person decides to live their life that way. Who are you to tell somebody how to live their life? That part never made sense to me. That's why it's and I think it's just the egos and the control of it all. And that's why I think the relationship aspect of just trying to understand someone for who they are is all that you need to do in order to build a strong foundation of people that you can trust. Again, we've known each other, I would say it's going on maybe 6 years. Yeah. I have good friends that I've been in touch with for probably a decade now. How are these relationships possible? It's understanding who that person is. And I mean that's that.
Yeah. And if you really care about that person,
you'll make it happen.
You'll make it happen.
You make time for the things you care about.
Yeah, you make that happen. Yeah. That's kind of where I was with that today. I hope that, that kind of answered your question.
No, it definitely did. No, I just want the people that are listening to this right now is just to really think about, when was there a time where you had life give you a second chance and made you look at things literally differently, and now look at where you are now. I hate to be the one to tell you to go back in memory lane, but sometimes it's needed. We all need some sort of reflection to be able to see how far we have come. And because then at that point in time, you can then live a little bit more in the moment instead of trying to chase, that end goal that it's hard to accomplish or hard to get to.
Here's another thing. Whatever that dark thing could be, or whatever, gave you that second chance, even if you don't want to think about it, do it, because that doesn't define you anymore, or it never did. Actually, it's not part of your identity. We're not, nobody here is perfect. We're bound to make mistakes, but it's how we learn from those mistakes that were able to thrive and be successful.
Yes, sir.
So go back and do the work. Peel those layers of yourself.
Just leveling up, cause I know the life I want. I'm just setting it up. Removing those that's close who try messing it up. Can't wait for champagne toast with the relevant bunch. Like, what's up? Yeah. Like, what you do, homie? What's your vision? How you thinking? How you move, homie? And is you cool, homie? You thinking building, then that's something we could do, homie.